Good morning. My name is Mary Heron, and today I'm just going over Modular Three's assignment between Federalist and the Democratic Republic. The first question is, what were the fundamental differences between Federalists and the Democratic Republicans? First of all, the Federalists, they wanted to make sure, basically, they were big government. They believed in a republic type of in government. They wanted to be recognized by other nations that they are a strong nation. They did not believe that the revolution changed the traditional roles between men and women and between race relations. They also stated that the United States was not created for democracy, but rather a republic. Now, the Democratic Republicans viewed Federalists could turn the United States into aristocracy. Basically, they were mostly concerned about the states having governed their own. It was in due to make sure that the common man was representative. Prominent leader was Thomas Jefferson, that they take care of home rather than take care of the government. Now, describe Alexander Hamilton's plans to address the nation's financial woes. Which aspects proved to be most controversial and why? Let's see. His main concern is that we needed to have a national bank. We had over $53 million in debt. He designed the federal banking system, which is still used today. He addressed the public debt. We needed to be recognized by other nations that we needed to honor our debt to owe to other countries. For example, France was a big one of them. That if it wasn't for France, we would not have our nation because they helped back us up. They also wanted that the wealthy Americans needed to reinvest in their country by selling bonds, and they could accrue interest. And he also believed in raising revenue. So, describe the growth of the first party system in the United States. How did these parties become to develop, and how did they define themselves both independently and opposition to one another? And where did they find themselves in agreement? Well, first of all, as I said before, Thomas Jefferson did not agree with the Federalists. He felt they favored the rich people over the common people. And also the Federalists, they wanted to reject the Bill of Rights. They felt the Federalists ignored the common, with the Democratic Republican. They felt that the Federalists ignored the common man's concerns. Now, whereas the Federalists, they believed that we needed to be recognized as a strong nation, need to have a strong Federalist. They wanted to reinforce the Republic. Now, between the two parties, the one thing that they did agree upon was the 1790 Naturalization Act, which basically defined what an immigrant is. In order to be a United States citizen, they had to be a free white person in good character. This excluded free blacks, natives, and Asian people from citizenships. It also established the right to vote, again, making the native, the black people, they were not able to vote. And there was only one state that allowed women to vote at the time, and that was New Jersey. But the caveat is that the unmarried had to own property in New Jersey. Unfortunately, that was revoked in 1807. So now we're to the French Revolution. How did the French Revolution in the early 1790s influence the evolution of American political system, and how did the U.S. relationships with France influence ideas? Let's see. One thing that was really concerning was that the French Revolution, there was a corruption of monarchy. Basically, the king had ultimate role, and they were actually inspired by the American government. That's why a revolution came in. The people had to say so. They can dictate their lives. Because of America's disapproval of the current monarchy, France demanded us to pay back money that they loaned us to help with the American Revolutionary War. The Federalists such as George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, John Adams, they wanted us to remain neutral. However, because the Democratic Republicans supported the French revolutions, Thomas Jefferson, this is where the conflict arose between the Federalist and the Democratic Republic. And we can see this happening today in our current governments with parties. Partisan politics why do historians refer to the election of Thomas Jefferson the Revolution of 1800? Basically, this was the first transfer of power from one political party to the other party. As I said prior, the Federalists, who was George Washington and John Adams, they were voted out of office, and this is the first time there was a change in power that did not have bloodshed. However, there was a lot of mudslinging when Thomas Jefferson was a Democratic Republic, so there was a lot of bickering back and forth. What were the pros and cons of the Louisiana Purchase? Pros, we basically doubled our country for more than $15 million. We also gained access to the Mississippi River, which helped our commerce to grow. So instead of us having to ship and receive goods from a foreign country, we could actually use the Mississippi River. We can basically ship our stuff down to the Gulf of Mexico, and then we could ship it from below Florida and then just go up to the shores of Virginia or North Carolina to get our goods. The biggest con about this, because we owed New Orleans was the Spanish actually controlled the people, but when French took over that, because of the money and because we disagreed with the French government, they actually tried to charge us for using the port of New Orleans. So because of the conflict, this created war. Okay. What was the most significant impact of the War of 1812? This was also known as the Second American Independence War. We had unresolved issues with Great Britain, especially with dealing with the Native Americans. The Native Americans, because they backed up the British during the Revolutionary War, there was a lot of resistance of us moving westward. And this caused a lot of friction between New England and the Virginians. In the end, New Orleans was won, and we actually won the port of New Orleans, and then we were able to use the Mississippi River to help import or to help trade within our country. And this also helped with the industrialization as we expand to New England. Okay. Industrialization in the Northeast produced great benefits and major problems. What were they, and who benefited and who suffered? And did the benefits outweigh the problems? Okay. Industrialization actually it basically introduced a water-propelled textile mills. It gave us a chance to run factories in our country, and it also opened up a plethora of jobs for people. One of the biggest workforces that we have is the first time women actually went to work in the workforce. Women had to be unmarried and typically below the age of 30, and so they would work these women to death. Unfortunately, there were no laws that restricted them at the time. This changed. Again, the benefit, it created more jobs. However, the intensity of the work, it caused a lot of labor issues. The biggest advantage of industrialization, instead of having piecework done by home, that's how they would sell it. They could mass produce it. So let's say if somebody wanted a certain style dress, instead of it being handmade where it take a lot of time, they had machines that would mass produce this. So I would say the disadvantage was it took work away from the common people from day to day. So they had to actually work in a workforce. And then it also created undue work hours when people worked at the factories. What did Peter Cooper envision for the United States, and how did it work to bring his vision alive? Well, he was basically an inventor. He invented the steam locomotive. He believed in merit. He didn't believe in sense of entitlement. He believed that there was a college for many years that it was tuition free, and it was based on the merit of the student, not who your dad was, basically. And he believed in as I said, he believed that the admission to school was solely based on ability and race or sex, and not through connections had no place. Okay, and last but not least, what were the values of the middle class, and how did they differ from those above and below the social economic ladder? In what ways are these similar to and different from those held in the middle class today? They basically believed in the middle class. They believed in cleanliness, discipline, morality, hard work, and good manners. They believed that hard work and education enabled them to rise in life. At this time, they're pretty much the same thing, but back then they used children and women as laborers, and now because of the issues, now this is illegal. Now women are included in the workforce, whereas before the middle class, only women that were not married or were not married were able to work in the factories. But now women, we have women that are married and have children are now in the workforce. So it created a different dimension with our middle class as it is today.